Hello, everyone. Let's talk about heaven, hell, and identity absorption versus soul absorption, specifically in the source. So, when we're talking about heaven and hell, when it comes to a heaven, I'm going to be specifically referencing the Christian idea of it, but I'm talking about the heavens and hells in many different traditions and religions. So, this is also going to be related to soul fragmentation, which I've talked about in other videos. So soul fragmentation, which has a deceptive name, is the fragmentation. To me, it's the fragmentation of the spirit, the ego, and the soul. The soul cannot be contained. It cannot be held back for very long, in the vast majority of cases. So when we're talking about the ego, it can become a ghost for a period, or if we're talking about the spirit, we're talking about the life force that can become a spirit for a certain amount of time. If the spirit is absorbed back into nature, back into the earth, the ego, if it becomes a ghost, the ghost is eventually absorbed back into the grander or united subconscious. So that's explaining that. Let's go ahead and go into heaven or heavens. So if a particular soul existing through a particular identity or ego, individual person, if they were harmonious in their existence and their balance with the multiverse, they might go to something like a heaven. So specifically, Christian heaven. So the Christian idea of heaven, the pearly gates and all that. There's all kinds of different heavens. Swarg, even hell, Hel for the Vikings, was a kind of heaven, but the Norse kind of knew that's where the consciousness of a single identity absorbed back into the grander subconscious. So they didn't use words like that. So when you go to a heaven, assuming you lived in some sort of level of balance with the multiverse and life, your identity, this person that we are, experiences full expression of itself. All desires are satisfied. Everything you need to express, you express, and the identity is fully satisfied until it is slowly lulled into absorption into the source. So identity absorption is the person that you were in a life is absorbed into the source to be it merges back in, to always be remembered and to be always within the grander consciousness of the source, if you want to call it that. This is not soul absorption. So in a heaven, you achieve identity absorption, and then the soul can move on to another life, another try. So before moving on to soul absorption, that was identity absorption. Let's talk about hells, or the idea of hell. So in the Bible, when it talks about the few references to fire and hell, it's referencing the hell's usually on a place of fire. It's referencing the ghost of a person who is so, let's say that they were so passionate in life and they just were so attached to the pleasures of the body that when the body dies, that the ego of that person is so attached to the experiences of the body or the pleasures of the body that it can remain behind. And the reason why it's referred to as like fire in the Bible is because imagine having the desires wanting to experience the desires of the body, but not having a body, not having a means to satisfy the desires that you're so attached to. Just pure passion without any sating, without any satisfaction of it. That is the fire of passion that is talked about in the Bible. That is the fire of passion without the means to satisfy it, is what they're referring to with the fires of hell. It's like that. So, but there are hellish dimensions. There's a number of reasons you might go either by choice or by alignment with various entities or beings. Or you might, and this is the case that might be referred to by Christians, you got to do a lot of really bad things to go to the hells, not be reincarnated as an animal or an insect or even a virus, but to go to the hells, not being aligned, not being drawn, not trying to seek expression as a demon, but just being drawn down there, without being aligned down there. Because of your actions, you have to do very, very bad things. And your experience of the hells is very different than if you were aligned with various dark beings and you just travel down there because you're aligned with them, or you wish to go to the hells. I say down, but that's just in reference to dimensions. You could also be abyss, which is around, kind of. So, if you align yourself with various beings, you might go to the hells, and your experience of hell will not necessarily be the punishment, or if you just fall down there because of some very, very bad things that you do, not like satisfying your desires or anything like that. You have to do some very heinous things. A lot of heinous things are going to just be dragged down there, not out of alignment, but to be dragged just by your energy being so low. And your effect on the multiverse being so imbalanced that you go to a place of imbalance. You're dragged down there. But if you align yourself with beings in the hells, and you'll go there and you'll have a certain degree of status. You'll have a certain place. And just like in the heavens and hells, there's still the element of status and hierarchy. Very much stressed in the hells, but it still exists in the heavens. It is said that the heavens or sword can even be painful if you see beings being rewarded more than you, or having higher status than you, and that bothers you because you're not getting quite as much. And now we're getting into when I talked about identity absorption earlier, your every desire being satisfied. Yes, and you see everything being every expression of that identity being expressed. That happens, but there's still hierarchy in these planes, and there's still status. So if you're very status based, you can even experience pain in the heavens because there is hierarchy. So if you are aligned with various beings in the hells, and you go to the hellish dimensions or the abyss, there's still work to do there for your various beings on the various sides that you've taken in the multiverse. In the heavens, we're specifically talking about the heavens that aren't the astral heavens, but more like Swarg or paradises. That's where identity absorption happens. But now, if we reach a certain level of moksha and go to the astral heavens, almost all hells are astral, but they're more confined. They're more confined than the astral heavens. The astral heavens, you reach a level to where you're beyond the material universes. There's still work to do there based on your orientation with the multiverse. But the hellish realms, while being astral, are extremely confined and places of less freedom. And the beings in the hells are very covetous of their various sections and what they have. So it's a constant struggle for power and dynamics. And there's a lot of pocket dimensions that are ruled by various beings, various princes. And they hold on to those pocket dimensions. And some of the dimensions overlap, and they hold on to their various places very adamantly. So there are a number of very dark entities that if you align yourself with and you work towards that path, you can hold your soul back from another identity and force it to just be your identity. Basically, you can extend the length of your ego's life in hellish realms if you're aligned correctly and you do the work based on your alignment. You can keep your soul from kind of moving on and forcing it to be the identity that you are for who knows how long. Not forever, but for quite a while. And there's various dark entities that can help you do that. It might sound great to some people, might not. So let's talk about soul absorption. This is only achieved through complete and absolute transformation of both using your identity life after life, or perhaps you remember your identity, use your identity so well that you remember the last one and you can pick up where you left off. This is something that can happen on a light and dark path, but we're talking about soul absorption, so this is the lighter path. So you reach various levels of the astral heavens and you go up causal. You work through, you do the work that's of saints and gods, whatever that work may entail. Eventually, if you reach high enough, and you have to come down to the material plane to reach levels of enlightenment and before you go on to the astral. So there's certain levels of enlightenment that you can only reach here, but then the work continues on once you go beyond this plane or the material planes. So eventually, once you work your way through all the astral and the causal, then you achieve complete annihilation in light. Your soul finally reaches complete unification with the Godhead, with the Source. Your soul finally has traveled and come home, and basically you merge with your home. You don't exist in it, you are it. It's hard for us as material beings to understand this, but there's nothing to do once you're absorbed in God. You just are. You're not confined, you just are infinity. There's nothing to do, you just are. It's hard to picture, right? It's hard to picture just being consciousness because there's no visual that you can picture. There's no separated streets and buildings. There's no even sphere. It's just infinity. It's just infinite expansion. It doesn't have the same visual that we're used to. When you reach that soul absorption, it is, in essence, annihilation of any kind of sense of separateness. It's just oneness. That's what soul absorption is. Whereas identity absorption is just a matter of one life, going to a heaven after it and then melding back in. Or even if you're not aligned and you're not doing work for beings in hell or trying to become a hellish being, if you're just dragged down there because of your vibration, because of the terrible things that you've done, you go into the abyssal or hellish realms, then your identity is kind of worked out. It's worked out in the sense that the chaos you experience, the chaos that you inflicted, until that identity is basically ripped apart in essence. Not literally like you might think, like ripping apart a body, but the identity is either ripped apart in the hells if you're just dragged down there and you're not aligned, or it's in the heavens. It's slowly and calmly absorbed. So this has been a video about heaven, hell, and identity absorption versus soul absorption. I hope it wasn't too convoluted. I hope that it wasn't too complicated. I tried to make it as simple as possible. I doubt there's very many people that will agree with me on this. But these are realizations that I've experienced. And I'm kind of glad I'm in a kind of a niche on YouTube. There's a few dozen of you that really watch all my videos. I really appreciate it. You're weird like me. But a video like this would ruffle a lot of feathers and step on a lot of toes. Wouldn't really make anybody happy. but I do think it is the truth. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this was interesting. Hit that thumbs up down there if you liked it. Feel free to share it wherever you want. And all of you, have a wonderful day.